Greetings, hello. Welcome to another episode of Bloodhouse, the show where we talk about art house horror films. I'm your host, Joshua Conkle.
Jawohl, and I'm your co-hostess Drusilla Adeline. Good morning. How's your week been, Josh?
Guten Tag. Everything has been fine. Everything has been fine. Nothing really to report. Yesterday, thanks to your alert I received about a month ago, Joel and I schlepped to the New Beverly to see my favorite children's movie of all time. And let's be honest, maybe my favorite film, The Dark Crystal from 1982, which I hadn't seen on the big screen since maybe the year 2000 or so, like college era. Mm-hmm. So what a treat. Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention.
Well, I wish I could have gone. I feel bad that I forgot myself about this, despite the fact that I told you about it, because I still haven't seen said fantasy puppet film.
I don't know if you would like it since you don't like fantasy films. It's a very earnest, in my mind, it's like the most pure fantasy film of all time because, you know, like Lord of the Rings has like every fantasy movie has like elves or trolls or things like that. Mm-hmm. This movie creates everything from scratch. They don't borrow from any other mythologies. They spent like 7 years building this world.
Oh, Jesus.
And there's not a human face on screen. It's all puppets. So it's so pure and earnest. And, but I think people who didn't grow up with it find the puppets a little, uncanny or something. To me, I can't imagine that because it's just such a part of my life. But, I know it's weird for people.
The reason I haven't seen it, and the reason that I haven't seen many puppet films, we'll say, is because my mother is a very, very big Jim Henson and Muppet fan, and she showed me, I think, like 3 Muppet movies in one day when I was like all of 4 or 5 years old. Like the Muppet movie, Great Muppet Caper, Muppet Sick Manhattan. More than likely those.
Great movies.
Great films. As a child, though, they terrified me because the Muppets were so uncanny. Specifically, not like Miss Piggy or Kermit, but the ones that try to look like people. So, like, the band, all of those, and, like, Scooter, and I was like, oh, what the fuck are these things? And I would have nightmares about Muppets for longer than I would care to admit. And so...
Well, The Dark Crystal is like a kinder trauma classic because it's very dark. It's very frightening. So I'm glad you didn't see it as a child, and I don't know how you would like it as an adult. I think it's beautiful and a masterpiece.
I will have to see it because so many friends of mine, you included, deeply adore it. It is very, very important, but... And I know I need to, and seeing it at the New Bev on film would have been such a lovely way of experiencing it, and it feels like giving it the respect it deserves to sit down and watch it in a theater full of people who love it. It seems like the ideal way to watch any film.
Sure.
But
that is a good segue because I wanted to ask you a question about that. And this is something I've never been brave enough to ask aloud in film circles. So the print yesterday at the Dark Crystal, it was a good print, but it was a bit dark, literally dark. And, I thought of all the times I've been to like the Egyptian or the New Beverly or wherever and seen a print of an old movie that is like, it looks like it's been dipped in Pepto-Bismol from vinegar syndrome. Like it's barely even watchable. So my question is this. I understand the importance of maintaining film as something to shoot movies on because it's so beautiful and aesthetic. Why are we so attached to watching movies on film at a theater? Because I don't know, is it just nostalgia? Is it just the novelty of it? Like, what's the use of preserving something that doesn't last in that way?
I mean,
why not just watch the digital print and have it be clearer?
Well, that's to an extent. However, clear digital prints don't exist for every movie, right?
Well, yes. Okay. Well, that's something.
And there are a lot of movies that maybe are on DVD and were restored in the 90s or 2000s, but those restorations still pale in comparison to just like a theatrical print on 35 millimeter from the 70s or from the 50s or something. Mm-hmm. Specifically going to see a film that is from like, maybe let's say like the 40s, that is on a nitrate film print is one of the most gorgeous experiences you'll ever have. Seeing like an IB Technicolor print is one of the most gorgeous experiences you can ever have. A lot of those film stocks look so great and so gorgeous and better than your TV will ever be able to replicate in any setting, or a DCP for that matter, because of the silver and the chemicals and the dye processes that they go through. It's almost alchemical, the kind of like magic that it makes, in my opinion. Yeah. However, I've also been to screenings of plenty of movies that they, for one reason or another, the programmers were only able to get a hold of a pretty beat up 16 millimeter print that reel 4 is like all red because it's lost all of its pigment or whatever. Yeah. And for the most part, those are, in my experience, have been pretty trashy movies that I'm pretty fine with looking that way anyway, and they add to the experience. Or it's like the only print available at the time for like a rare Italian giallo film or something like that. However, if I was going to see The Princess Bride, for example, at a local art house theater, and they were playing it on 35, and I went and the print was Garbo, like, I would be mad. Like, there's no point in showing a film like that's like big, popular, restored. I feel like that's why
that's the Dark Crystal falls into that category. Yeah. I mean, the print wasn't I but it was dark, and I happen to know that the digital print looks a lot better, and so I was like, why aren't we just watching that?
Yeah. On occasion, it's kind of like, but for the most part, I'm pretty into it. I've yet to be disappointed.
I mean, am too, I guess.
The only time that it really
I just was curious
irks me is, and the only time that I'm like, no, this movie, I don't want to see it on film, I want to see it on DCP, is Dario Argento's Suspiria from 77.
Yeah, I saw that at New Bev on film.
So the reason I don't like seeing it on film is because the US theatrical print is edited and is missing like 10 minutes of footage. And so, like, I think the soundtrack is slightly different too. And so, it's just it feels incomplete. Meanwhile, we have one of the most definitive 4K restorations of a movie ever for that. And it screens very frequently. I would so much rather see that. I saw Suspiria at the New Bev on film, and I've seen it at Cinefamily on film, and I always would get excited beforehand, and I would get there and be in my seat, and I would be disappointed midway through, being like, oh, God damn it. So, you know, there are a few bangers that I can't do like that.
Yeah. In 2017, I saw at the Egyptian a screening of the 70s horror film The Witch Who Came from the Sea, which I assume we'll do eventually. And it was so vinegar syndromed that it was like I was swimming through Pepto-Bismol and I could barely see. It was so bright pink that I could barely see what was happening in the movie at times. And I think at that time the movie hadn't been restored, and so that was really the only way that you could see it. But I was like, what are we doing here? What's the purpose? And I also remember at New Bev, I went to a matinee to see Rebecca, the Hitchcock film, and only one of the projectors...
Josh, I was there.
Take a break. You were?
I was.
When the projector stopped working and they had to take a break at every reel?
Yeah, every 20 minutes they stopped. Oh my God, I did not know you were there. Holy shit.
What are we doing? Yeah, that's so
I
weird.
left work early that day to go catch the 2:00 matinee of Rebecca, and I was so excited because it's my favorite Hitchcock movie, and I had never seen a Hitchcock movie in theaters on film before. And I took my friend with me at the time because he had never seen Rebecca, and I was like, this is going to be great. And then the projector stopped, and they got fucked up, and they're like, sorry, you can leave if you want, but we're going to keep trying on one projector. And we stayed, and we were like chatting in between
I stayed too.
The intervals.
Yeah, I stayed too.
God damn it!
What a small world.
Of course. LA film culture would do this to us.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a tirade. How are you? What's been going on?
I'm doing well. I have lovely, lovely, exciting work that I've been like neck deep in all week, and I really cannot wait to talk to people about it and share it out in the world. But there's a lot of stuff cooking. Oh my god, there's a lot of stuff cooking, and I really can't wait to drop it and let people get their grubby little eyeballs on it. So hopefully in the next like month or so. But until then, I'm grinding away to get a lot of projects out, and I'm very, very, very into. But I've been working at my house a lot, and I've been like redecorating my house in my spare time when I have a moment between projects and a moment between Photoshop, basically. And I'm really, really, really proud. I just hung shelves at the landing of my second floor in my condo and made a little like VHS setup there that looks gorgeous. I've completely themed my staircase with all of my murder mystery related art. I got this beautiful vintage lamp from my friend Ethan. I got a new bar cart, and the house is coming together very, very nicely. I'm going to look at
love that,
a vintage wing back love seat later today for my studio space. I'm very excited.
Love that.
But also, I've been watching movies. I've been seeing movies, Josh. What else do I do with my time?
I don't know.
I don't know either, honestly. But there's a new release out that is in theaters now that is by a director that we have talked about in this podcast, and I'm sure we will talk about more, and starring maybe the biggest actress du jour of the genre, Miss Mia Goth in Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool.
Now, did you like this movie? Because we don't like Brandon Cronenberg. We didn't like his last movie.
I didn't like Possessor. That's true. I took umbrage, some might say, with elements of it. However, so I saw Infinity Pool months ago for work-related reasons. And then I went to go see it in theaters this past week with a friend because she's a gigantic fan of Cronenberg and Mia Goth and X and Pearl. And so it was very much a no-brainer. Like, well, we're going to this. And I enjoyed Infinity Pool a whole hell of a lot more than Possessor. I didn't like it as much as I love Brandon Cronenberg's first movie, Antiviral, because that movie is a banger. But this is... he's stepping further out of his dad's shadow, thankfully. And he is letting Mia Goth give a Mia Goth performance. And that is the selling point. It's very much about ego death.
So good.
In a really interesting, creative way. And putting men in their place. And these are all things that I like and enjoy. So I had a lot of fun. It's very trippy and wild and full of bodily fluids out the yin-yang. However, I will say the theatrical version that is playing at AMC's across the country is edited from the festival version that I saw.
Interesting.
So hopefully they'll put out a director's cut or an NC-17 cut when it gets to home video, I guess. They did that with Possessor. Possessor came out, and then a few months later they did the, like, Possessor, like, wild cut, or whatever they wanted to call it at the time.
Yeah.
So hopefully they do that with Infinity Pool, because there's some pretty gnarly special effects that you can't see in theaters right now, which makes me mad.
That's a bummer. Yeah.
But it's a good film. I highly recommend it if you want to have, like, a good, weird, fun time. It is underratedly funny, and that's something that I feel like a lot of people aren't appreciating, is that, like, you're supposed to be laughing with it. It is presenting a very, like, static tone and very, like, toned down performances from Alexander Skarsgård, but everything else that's going on is intended to be humorous and wild, and it's supposed to be a fun time. If If you go into that with a big crowded theater with that in mind, you're gonna have fun.
It sounds great.
Yeah, it's a good time. I think you're gonna like it a lot, Josh, specifically.
Yeah, I like the trailer a lot.
What have you been up to? What have you been watching?
Nothing, just The Dark Crystal. I mean, truly, I go through phases with media where, like, I consume tons and tons and tons of one kind of thing, and then I get burnt out and I switch to something else. So now I'm still, like, in a book
Your
place,
bookland, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not watching movies or TV, really. So Dark Crystal is all I had, to be honest. I'm just reading a lot. That's the truth.
Understandable. Well, I did bully you into watching one movie this week.
Yes, you did, and I'm glad. I enjoyed it, so let's get to it. This is a Drew pick, if ever there was one. This is a movie from 1973, directed by Uli Lamel. It is The Tenderness of the Wolves. So, tell me about this movie. When did you first see it? You love this movie, I assume, so go off.
I'm a fan. So, I initially encountered Tenderness of the Wolves when I lived in Chicago. And when I lived in Chicago, at Reckless Records, they had the out-of-print Anchor Bay DVD of this from like 2000. And it has a really stark cover of Kurt Raab, bald, blood on his mouth, hunched over this like nude young boy. It's a very vampiric image, and with the title Tenderness of the Wolves, which is fucking incredible. And I was like so sold, and I picked the DVD up and it was like $80 or something like that. And I was like, fuck no. Nope. Well, hopefully someone puts it out again in the future, because I would like to see that. And then I got super into the films of new German cinema art house Wunderkind Rainer Fassbinder, who is the goddamn greatest. Fox and His Friends, Bitter Tears, Spectrum and Kant, 8 Hours Drama a Day, World in a Wire, Berlin Alexanderplatz, Lola, yes. The list goes on. They're the best. Super gay, super artsy, super melodramatic, just achingly beautiful, with like a recurring troupe of actors in every film, and technicians, like cinematographers Michael Ballhaus, and consistent themes and ideas. And it's watching one after another. They're very easy to digest and like get addictive. And with a recurring cast of characters, it feels like watching a theater troupe just do the next play. It's really cozy in that way. And so I became a really, really, really big fan of Fassbinder's. And in 2021, I was contacted by Arrow Video, friends of the show and the like premier home video boutique label out of the UK, to design 3 volumes of Rainer Werner Fassbinder box sets, which I cannot tell you, listeners, how quickly I snapped to doing that. Oh my god, I was so excited. And I was very pleasantly surprised to see that in one of the sets, they would be including Uli Lomel's Tenderness of the Wolves, which is not a Fassbinder-directed film, but it's one that he produced and one that stars his repertory company, Uli Lomel being one of said actors, along with Kurt Raab, who stars and wrote the film.
And Fassbinder is in this movie, too.
Yes, he is. I rewatched it this morning, and when he showed up, I audibly yelled out, "Daddy!" Alone in my apartment at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. or whatever. Yeah, so I had seen a good number of the movies that we were working on for that project, but I hadn't seen Tenderness of the Wolves. And so I watched it for that project. The only thing I had known about it was that it was based on the real-life serial killer Fritz Hauermann, who was the inspiration for Fritz Lang's M, which, of course, I've seen many, many, many times. And
there's a lot of M tributes in this movie, or like homages.
There's one very specific shot with a ball that is like right on the money. And I was really struck by the tone and the pacing and the style of this movie. It is very much Lummel proves himself very much to be a student of Fassbinder in the directing and the execution and the framing of this movie. It's very much made by that theater company. And it is so fascinating that he went on to make The Boogeyman in the 1980s.
I know.
And then continues to make some of the worst shot on video trash horror movie, like direct to DVD things ever right now.
Yeah.
A very impressive career. And knowing that and knowing his Warhol roots and starting at Tenderness of the Wolves, it is a very odd watch, but it's a really thrilling and strange and exciting one. And it was really, really, really fun to revisit for this. I've been wanting to rewatch it since I watched it for the project, because I was so inundated in Fassbinder stuff at the time. I wanted to watch it outside of that and as a horror movie, because that's what it's primarily marketed as and billed as. Like, the old Anchor Bay DVD
doesn't quite fit,
made it look like Possession or something like that.
Right.
And this is, maybe like Werner Herzog's Nosferatu is a close comparison in terms of like tone. Like, you're getting a German art film first and foremost. Everything else is secondary.
Yeah, this is a great example of a movie where like exploitation and art house kind of overlap a little bit, because this is primarily a crime drama more than it is a horror film, especially since it's based on a real case. I really liked this movie. I hadn't seen it. In my head, I think I thought it was In the Company of Wolves, which is the Angela Carver Bloody Chamber adaptation, which I've also never seen. So I think all of these years I've kind of combined these two titles as one. So I really didn't know what I was getting into as I started it. It's so beautifully filmed, and I love Fassbinder too, and so it was really fun to see all of those actors and to see Fassbinder. I do feel a little bit like, I mean, this isn't a review podcast, so I won't review this movie, and I really love this movie, but it is a little bit disaffected or flat in a way that surprised me. Meaning the subject matter, which we'll get into shortly, I'm sure, is so dark that I think I expected something closer to, I don't know, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, or something that was much more challenging or difficult to watch, or much more melancholy. This movie, you're kind of riding on a status quo of like, I felt like sort of disconnected from it. I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying the way that I felt was kind of flat throughout the movie, which I thought was interesting. And I don't know. At points I felt like maybe I should feel sadder here, or more horrified here, or I don't know. But the most disturbing thing about it to me was like the number of seemingly underage boys who are put in sexual situations.
Yeah. So. That's the most upsetting part of this movie, is you're like, there's a lot of young boys that are like fully nude in this film.
Yeah, that boy looks 12 and he's fully naked and being molested on screen, and it's surprising then that it doesn't make me more upset.
Well, that stuff makes me very upset. There's at least one scene where there is like a boy like stripping to go swim in the river, and Kurt Robb is like watching him from the shore, and I just remember being like, oh good god, please can we cut? Why are you filming this?
Right. The production implications made me upset, but the story and directing didn't make me upset.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I was more thinking like, oh my god, these poor boys in this movie, like, is this okay? Should I be watching this? I had like all sorts of ethical dilemma type questions watching it. I don't know. So
I love that. So this movie was conceived by Lommel and Kurt Robb because they were very obsessed with the case that it's based on. And they wrote the script and they brought it to Fassbinder being like, hey, you should make this into a movie and we can star in it. And he was like, fuck no. I don't want to go direct like nude boys. You can.
Yeah.
I respect him for that. But yeah, the tone and the pace of this movie is a lot more like slice of life. Let's look at like this like low seedy character and the life that he leads to get by in the 1920s, and how hard in Germany in the Weimar Republic when there's like no food and no money between the wars. And it's so much more interested in that, and it only hints at for a long time what's really going on in his apartment. There's like packages of meat that he brings down to the local restaurant around his block, and there's like a large number of young boys that come in and out of his place, and it stays pretty disaffected and disconnected from that element of the story. And then the more we get into the back half of the film, the more it's like, here's him with blood on his mouth. Here's like a dead body, and him like threatening his sex worker neighbor friend into being like, no, it's fine. Don't mention it. Go home. It gets more and more upsetting, and because it set that tone of like, this is the way people get by, this is the normal life at the time, that stuff feels more like kind of queasy near the end because you're kind of complacent in watching it. It's a really odd movie.
It is very odd. So maybe that's a good point to put a little synopsis. So, as we've said, this is following the true case of Fritz Hartmann, who was a gay serial killer and cannibal in the small town of Hanover in the 1920s. He was eventually caught and beheaded at the guillotine, but he did kill at least 24 young men between the ages of 10 and 22, most of them like teenagers. So in this movie, he lives in a small room in a boarding house of some sort, and he works as some sort of investigator, which I thought he was pretending to be, but actually he wasn't. I looked it up. He was both a petty criminal, like a known petty criminal, and an investigator for the police. So I don't know how that works.
In the narrative of the film, he's like a petty criminal and con artist who is brought in by the police to be an informant.
An informant.
So he's like buddy with the police. So they turn a blind eye to whatever he's doing. And he sets up little like traps to catch counterfeiters and bootleggers that he works with, and kind of turn them over to the police on occasion for money.
So he's like a narc.
So he sucks a narc and a pedophile, the worst man.
Yeah, so he uses his position to lure these young men to his room. So he'll say that he's going to help them if they're street kids, or he'll like fake arrest them and then bring them home and say like, I won't arrest you if you do XYZ for me. So he's molesting these young men and then murdering them. And he also traffics in contraband meat for money. So he sells meat to local restaurants and butchers, which he says he got from, quote, a butcher named Carl. And he says that they're pork or horse meat, and often it's ground meat or it's off the bone. So it implies that it's human meat, which the movie says it definitely is, I think, is what their suggestion is. In real life, that aspect of the story is conjecture and not proven. But in the movie, it certainly seems to imply that he's selling human meat to his neighbors and having dinner parties with his friend group who are all enjoying the meat.
Eating like steak tartare of this meat.
Yeah. And the movie opens. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is that his neighbor is talking to him through the wall, and she's saying, will I have meat tomorrow? And he's like, no, not tomorrow, but maybe you'll have some bone or something. You know what I mean? So,
well, like, cause she's hearing like sounds from his apartment that are waking him up. And so she knows what's going on, and she bangs back and is like, hey, does that mean there's meat tomorrow? And he's like, no, but you can have some bone. And she's like, cool, great. Like,
that aspect kind of reminded me of Delicatessen or Sweeney Todd. You know, it has some of those vibes.
It feels like an inversion of Delicatessen.
Yeah, totally. He also has a nosy neighbor named Frau Linder who hears the banging and knows what he's up to, and later sees him like taking trash bags full of bodies to the river to dump. So basically, you know, he's killing these young men and eating them, and the world and in the form of investigators are kind of closing in on him. He also has a lover named Hans, who's like an adult, who it's sort of unclear to what extent his friend group knows what he's up to. They certainly know and laugh about how he's into young boys, and they're eating this meat, but we don't know to what extent. I don't think that they know that they are partaking in cannibalism.
I think they start to catch on near the like final third of the movie, his bisexual lover and pimp friend starts to, and a lot of the sex workers he's friends start to like catch on to it, and no one wants to say anything out loud, so they're all kind of like, we don't hang out with him anymore, he's too dangerous, he's too weird. Nope, we're just we're just stopping, and we're not having any interaction, and we're not saying why, we're just gonna move on. And it's really upsettingly like realistic in that way. Yeah, it's not great, but I feel like a lot of everyone, there's so many lines in this movie where everyone's like, there's no reason to worry him, he's totally harmless, he's got his little boys, and that's fine. And you're like, what?
Yeah. You know, it was a time, the Weimar Republic, right? Like you said, people were really hungry. All sorts of people were, you know, doing sex work or doing illegal things to get by. I think it suggests that like most of the characters in this movie are. And in real life, it doesn't really get into this in the movie, but his lover, Hans, his adult lover, in real life was heterosexual and was like sex, you know, he was angling on Fritz. Like he knew that he had heard that he was gay. And so he was like a sex worker who was taking advantage of him. And Fritz was in love with him, but he didn't love him back, which is why he eventually like turned on Fritz. And he would also make fun of Fritz behind his back, and Fritz knew it, but he was in love with him. And so it was like sort of a sad, tangled love affair.
There's a really upsetting, sad scene in this movie where they're all having dinner. He and all of his friends that he provides meat to are all having a lovely steak tartare dinner around the table. And Hans starts leaning on and groping one of their sex worker friends that's female.
Women sex worker.
Yeah. And Fritz feels very put out by this. And then everyone proceeds to make fun of him and ridicule him for being queer. And it just goes around the table as you see everyone else like toss out their little jokes, and we just like sit on each of their faces for a while. And then when we finally get back around to Fritz, he's not like ashamed or looking sad or guilty or something. He's just smiling and laughing along with them. And it's it's such a hard, this whole movie is just like ants under your skin the whole time in very different ways. I mean, we do get occasional little like jaunty, here's how we got by in the 20s bits of him and Hans pretending to be priests and conning people out of their dead children's clothes so they can sell them off to fences around town. That shit's really fun. Everything else in this movie makes me want to take a bath.
Yeah, I mean, the naked boys everywhere is really hard to watch. But that's not the movie. It's not the story, really. It's like more the production implications for me. It's like, oh, I don't know if I should be watching this. It feels icky. Fritz, this was true, and it's in the movie. He was called either like the Vampire of Hanover, the Wolfman of Hanover. He had all these labels because the way that his preferred method of killing boys was that he would bite their necks and like bite into their trachea and drink their blood. And so they would actually like asphyxiate to death because their tracheas have been smashed. And he called it his love bite.
Oh,
just like, whoa.
It's fucking,
that is terrifying nightmare.
I'm glad that verbal element was not included in the movie, because that's fucking disgusting. There are multiple scenes of him biting his victims during while molesting them, essentially. And he's caught ultimately at the end.
They set up a sting, basically,
doing
by
that.
sending a sexy 14-year-old to him.
Yeah, there's a great scene where like the police that he's been working for have been getting tips this whole time about him by his neighbor, played by the incredible Margit Kirstensen. And they're turning a blind eye this whole time because he's providing them with leads and whatever. And then when finally their boss that they have to answer to, who is an American military general who still has American troops stationed there, starts complaining to them that, like, we're hearing too much about murders and young boys going missing. You need to do something about this. They're like, oh yeah, I guess it's him. All right, well, we'll go round him up. And he has the great line of, like, we'll set the trap. And then it, like, immediately cuts to, like, young boy in the river. And, like, you know! You know well enough to set the trap. And you're gonna put this, like, 14-year-old boy in this scenario. Great.
Yeah. The movie's portrayal of these murders is actually, like, a lot more easy, not a play on word, swallow than the real life murders.
God damn it.
He bites their neck and they bleed, so it feels like a vampire, but that's a lot easier. I mean, we don't have to watch him bite into someone's trachea or Adam's apple.
Yeah, it's very, like, fake blood rubbed on someone's neck. We don't see him carving up bodies. There's you only see one dead body the whole movie, and it is a nude boy laid out on a bed just with some makeup on to look very pale, that he just casually tosses flowers onto. And then pulls the sheet over his head when his friend Dora asks what's wrong with him. And he was like, he needs a nap.
Yeah.
The scene where Dora comes to his attic apartment, which is so disgusting. I hate that apartment so much. I do love the, like, big framed painting that is, like, hung up on the, like, tilted rafters. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That apartment set is fucking disgusting. I feel so bad for all of the young men who had to be in this movie nude, but the young men who had to be in this movie nude in this disgusting room. But she comes in and she sees, like, the clothes and boots of the boy who'd been there the night previously on his bed. And Hans and their other friend are there, and she's like, hey, where's that boy? And he's like, oh yeah, he left. He went to Hamburg, so we don't have to worry about him. And she's like, really? Because his clothes are right there. And there's, like, a beat where everyone kind of looks at each other. And he's like, yeah, he wanted to borrow some of my clothes, so I gave him some clothes and some money. So that he would leave, because I'm a nice guy. And she's like, no, he's gone. Where the hell is he? And Hans and the other girl kind of, like, step in and look at her, and they're like, it's fine. It's okay. Yeah. Just go back downstairs. Let's be done. The level of, like, quiet cover-up in this movie, and, like, by the police, by, like, the sweet old lady, by the friends, is so unnerving, because, like,
well, everyone's complicit, right? Everyone's a good German, so to speak, right? Like, and I looked at this seriously, literally in this case. I looked at his Wikipedia, the real killer, Fritz, and he spent his whole life in mental institutions, and yet was, you know, he'd been doing this since he was a teenager, like molesting little boys, and he spent years and years in mental institutions. And, like, at various points, like, his mom helped him escape a mental institution after years at one point and sent him to Zurich to live for a while. And so people kind of forgot about it. Then he came back to... So it's like, anytime you hear about these disgusting people, there's, like, 20 years worth of hints and clues and people knowing. And you're like, how did they get away with it? Like, how did no one... And it's just like, as people, we don't want to get involved, right? It's easier if we don't say anything or we look the other way. And so these things compile until someone's, like, biting into a little boy's tracheas. And then you're like, how do we allow this to happen?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like that's the big takeaway from this movie. It's less about him and it's more about everyone else in this world that, like, allows this to happen. Because he's a terrible liar.
Oh, he sucks. He's a completely incompetent criminal and murderer of children, to be honest.
There's a scene where he takes the boots he's stolen off of a boy he's molested and murdered to a boot shop, to a cobbler. That's the word. Who's going to cobble the shoes. And he's like, hey, I need these cleaned up so I can sell them, basically. And the guy was like, huh, you've been bringing in a lot of these lately. These are like pretty small for you. These are like young boys' boots. And he just like looks down, looks to the side, looks back, and is like, oh, I saw my friend outside. Bye. He's so bad at it. He's such a bad liar all the time. Like, every single time the police ask him something about the murders or something, he's like, but excuse? And they're like, sure, why not? It's like, no, you know. You fucking know. Oh, it makes me so... it makes me so riled up.
The critical response to this was a bit mixed, and I saw a bad review from Roger Ebert, who gave it 2.5 out of 4 stars. And I want to read this to you, because to me, this is from a negative review, but to me, this feels like a compliment, right? So, to me, I read this as like positive copy. He said, it's a nasty little melodrama, lurid and creepy, and sometimes bordering on demented humor. It's the kind of movie we may not exactly enjoy, but we don't walk out on it. Doesn't that sound positive to you?
That sounds very positive. Like, okay. Oh my god.
Yeah. Anyway, anything else to say about this movie?
I mean...
No, he's not.
Listen, this movie's not for everyone. And...
Certainly not.
Especially if you look at, like, the history of Uli Lomel's later movies. Like, if you know him as the guy who made Zombie Nation and Daniel the Wizard and the BTK Killer. Everything on IMDb's bottom 250. Like, the worst movies ever made list is nothing but his later movies.
I will say, here's my hot take. I don't think he's a good director.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his direction is the weakest part of this movie. I think the locations and sets are so beautiful. I think the cast is incredible. Like, everything he gets from Fassbender, like he borrows from Fassbender, is great. But I think the direction is a little bit flat. And I don't know that it's intentional.
I was thinking about that while watching the movie. I was trying to, like, find the line between having good resources and good talent and being a good director. And being a good director is very much like casting your crew, casting your actors, and setting them up for success, which when you can just lift the crew and cast from every Fassbender film who've worked together all the time. It almost makes me... I was trying to think of, like, what a contemporary, like, version of this would be, and I was just thinking, like, imagine, if you would, a world in which early 2000s Tommy Wiseau was close friends with Paul Thomas Anderson. So Tommy Wiseau worked on Boogie Nights and Tommy Wiseau worked on Magnolia. And so when Tommy Wiseau wrote The Room, he was like, oh, I can get Julianne Moore and Don Cheadle and, like,
that's exactly
I'll get the whole cast of Magnolia and stuff and just, like, shoot on the same sets and with the same cinematographer, and you know what? The Room would be pretty fucking good.
Yeah, totally. I feel like this director is not controlling the tone of this movie. Mm-hmm. He has no control over it. And I feel like, you could have, there is a version of this which is like an icy, disaffected, kind of chiller in that regard, but it's actually not that. It's like kind of just flat. Mm-hmm. And I say this as somebody who really likes this movie. I love this movie. I would say I like it, not love it. I would give it like 4 stars, maybe 3.5. But yeah, I just don't think he's a very good director. And I think the rest of his career kind of proves that. I think he's lucky.
He's lucky. Like, what I would give to make my first, this isn't his first film, it was like his second film, but to make one of my first films with all of the resources of one of the greatest filmmakers in the world, like, holy hell, would be awesome.
If this movie had exactly all the same resources, but Fassbender had directed it, we're talking about a different film, I think.
Oh, a radically different film, and, a better film? More than likely. It would have been shot a little bit different. There's like, flashes of like visual brilliance in this movie. There's a scene in which Margit Carstensen is listening to the violence happening upstairs, and she sees a young boy come inside, and she's had her suspicions, and so she just hears the footsteps and the thuds and the moans and the creaks and the pounding.
That's one of my favorite scenes.
She grips her throat, and she gets a very Margit Carstensen eye performance, and there's this beautiful shadow of some plants in the background. It's lit in a very like 1940s Hollywood style, which is very close to the way that Fassbinder was shooting his films at the time. And that scene is gorgeous and brilliant, and that is the closest to like what Fassbinder would have done in this movie from a visual perspective. But there's not a lot of great shots in Tenderness from the Wolves.
Yeah.
It's pretty like straightforward.
I mean, I think the locations do a lot of the heavy lifting because it's the small industrial town in Germany called Hanover, and it looks incredible. It's very like, industrial and downtrodden, and it just looks beautiful.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking the whole time. They would cut back to his disgusting loft apartment on the top floor of this housing. Because there's so much grime and dirt running down those walls. And I just kept being like, I really hope they set dressed this place and didn't just find it like this, but I know they just found it like this. It's fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
There's no way they had the time or money to put into like, oh yeah, let's paint some more shit on the walls, rather than being like, hey, this place has shit on the walls, let's film here.
Well, thank you for introducing me to this movie. I really enjoyed it. It's fun to talk about. I think we should change focus and play Have They Seen It?
Yeah.
The game where we speculate wildly, whether notable figures have seen the movie. I have someone in mind, and I want to ask you about this other movie, because I'm looking at the DVD of it, which I haven't watched in 20 years, but I used to love this movie in college. And it's a Francois Ozon adaptation of a Fassbinder play, because he did write some plays. Mm-hmm. And it's called Water Drops on Burning Rocks. And it actually has a trans storyline in it. Have you seen this movie?
I haven't seen any Ozon films. I've been meaning to. He only came on my radar in the past
Francois
year
Ozon.
and a half or so.
I'll let you borrow it. I think you would like it. Maybe I should rewatch it first because it's been 20 years. Who knows how it's aged. But anyway, that's all just to say, do you think Francois Ozon has seen Tenderness of the Wolves?
Oh, abso-fucking-lutely. I think, yeah, definitely. He loves Fassbinder so much. I mean, he just made Peter von Kant his, like, even, like, if Petra von Kant was literal, because Petra von Kant is about Fassbinder's relationship with his assistant in The Men in His Life, and he just recast it as a lesbian film and play, and that Ozon was like, no, let's flip it back to what it was. And I need to see that. John Waters put it pretty high on his list. Yeah, Ozon loves Fassbinder, and I don't blame him. I think he's definitely seen this movie. I think he enjoys this movie. I think he's a fan of it. But I think he would share our take that Fassbinder would have done it better. But I'm also like really glad that Fassbinder that he actively chose to not direct young boys.
I think this, yeah. Wouldn't it be cool to see a production of a Fassbinder play? I've never seen one. It would be an interesting experience.
Love to direct a production of a Fassbinder play. I love his plays. I'm a really, really, really big fan.
He's so cool.
So speaking of fellow queer filmmakers, and filmmakers who appreciate the subject matter of molesting boys, do you think Bryan Singer has seen Tenderness of the Wolves?
No way, because I think Bryan Singer is really dumb.
Yeah,
I don't think he watches foreign films or art house films.
No one who makes
he's too basic.
All those X-Men movies has seen this.
Come on. No way.
Come on.
He's too stupid.
I'm sure in whatever exile he's in.
Yeah. I'm sure he's in like a very luxurious exile. So here's a filmmaker popped into my head out of nowhere, no connection to this movie or anyone involved. Has Greta Gerwig seen Tenderness of the Wolves?
Greta Gerwig has more than likely not seen Tenderness of the Wolves, but Noah Baumbach probably has.
probably has. Do you know what? I actually really like Greta Gerwig.
I love
have
both
no
of
qualms
them.
with her. But yeah, but the movie Frances Ha, which I also love, and this is not a knock, is kind of ripping off the movie Girlfriends from the 70s
yeah,
a
straight
lot,
up.
which is a better movie. And I know somebody who went to an early screening of Frances Ha where she was in attendance, and he was like, "Have you seen the movie Girlfriends?" And she just walked away from him. Because it was before Girlfriends got re-released and like
Yeah,
became
Girlfriends
more
was
well-known
really, really,
again.
really, really, really hard to see for the longest time. And it was a thing that people just
Amazing
occasionally were
movie.
like, there's this movie on a list called Girlfriends. Would it be cool to see someday?
Incredible movie.
And it was impossible to watch. And then Frances Ha was a huge hit and success. And 10 years later, we got Girlfriends.
And that scene where she's running down the street to David Bowie is taken directly out
Of a
of
song.
a French film with the same exact song. It's sort of wild. So I have like a hair of suspicion about Greta Gerwig. That's all I'll say. I really love all of her movies that I've seen, but that's like,
Well, I
a
mean,
little
she
bit like,
wrote Frances Ha, but she didn't direct it. It was directed by Noah Baumbach, her partner. And so choices like that was very Baumbach. Like,
right.
the Mova song
you're
lift is very much him. The Girlfriends angle, like, it might be her trying to update a film that she loves, to be reminiscent of a 21st century aspect of that. I see that aspect, I see that relationship, and it only makes me like Frances Ha more because of how much I love Girlfriends.
That's fair.
And I think they make a lovely double bill if you watch them together that way. I mean, in the same way that Tenderness of the Wolves is like a different take on M, and M has been remade at least 2 other times.
Has it? I had no idea.
M was remade in the 50s in America by Joseph Losey, just still titled M, and then it was remade in, I think, the later 50s or the 60s in Mexico as El Vampiro Negro, as the Black Vampire, which has only recently been re-released, and I highly recommend that people track it down. It's a lot of fun. Doing a double bill of El Vampiro Negro and Tenderness of the Wolves would be actually really fucking dope.
That'd be cool.
It's really interesting how these stories of one true crime thing, one single killer, can inspire so many movies that we just can't.
Well, because it is fascinating. I mean, as much as people want to hand-wring about the popularity of true crime, there's a reason it's popular. Like, I think it's just human nature to be interested in these stories because they're so beyond the pale. They're so far beyond what we think what we think is decent or good, that it's the shock of it, I guess, is like addictive is the thing.
I'm gonna round off Have They Seen It with maybe the one ask that we might have a definitive answer for. This movie, both in its setting and its cast, in the kind of grimy world that it's set in, and the great performance by Kurt Raab, kept making me think of, and this is a very odd thing, it's so disconnected from the movie, it's just sitting in my brain. A lot of this part of Hanover, in the very industrial town, reminds me a lot of parts of Pennsylvania. Reminds me a lot of the industrial parts of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. And seeing this cast and this grimy setting and all kind of centered around this little bar and restaurant that they keep coming back to, I kept thinking, if Tenderness of the Wolves was made as an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, with Frank Reynolds as the werewolf of Hanover, as our main character, as our killer. So my question is, do you think Danny DeVito has seen Tenderness of the Wolves?
So listeners, this is a bit of a trap because I know Danny DeVito pretty well. And I can just text him after this and ask him, and he'll probably answer me pretty quickly.
I think he'd dig it.
And I think he would too. He loves fucked up movies, and he's very well watched. So I do know that I can tell you that he knows and loves Targets, is the movie that Danny DeVito loves. He loves The Greasy Strangler. So he likes this stuff. I feel like if he has seen this, he saw it 20 years ago and doesn't remember if he's seen it or not. So if I texted him and asked him, he would like Google it and be like, "Oh, that's the one with the weird bald pedophile." Right? And I'd be like, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's 50-50. And I can text him and ask him after this if you want, but I just feel like the answer is yes.
I feel like yes. I would be surprised if he hasn't, honestly. And I think
Me too.
if any actor other than Kurt Robb has to play this part, I think he would do a great job.
I mean, he played exclusively dirtbags for like 30 years.
And continues to do so.
He's such a legend. I mean, he's an older man now, so he just does only the things that he wants to do, and the things that he wants to do are really fucked up and dark and weird, like Todd Solondz movies, and he'll show up in a Disney movie or whatever, but he doesn't do a damn thing that he doesn't want to do.
And I respect the fuck out of that.
He's the best.
Oh my God.
The best. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Bloodhouse. If you liked it, please rate it wherever you listen to podcasts. You can email us at bloodhousepod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram at bloodhousepod. Drusilla, where are you these days?
I'm on Instagram. My Sister Hyde design brand is over there. Hyde Sister, HYDESISTER. I'm also on Letterboxd. Quite frequently with all the dumb movies I'm watching, so go check those out. And as I mentioned at the top of the episode, I've got a lot of new projects and a lot of new art dropping soon, so go over to sisterhighdesign.com in the coming weeks to go check out that shit. Josh, where are you on the wild, wild world of the interwebs?
I am at Joshua Conkle at Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Now, next week we have a great movie. Mm-hmm. What is it? We
are going to take a little sojourn. We're going to take a little trip together to celebrate Saint Valentine. We're going to take a little picnic at Hanging Rock.
Ooh, can't wait. Good night.